The chanting grows louder, echoing through the cursed forest like 1,000 voices crawling under the skin, each masked hunter striking their blades into the ground in rhythm, the earth trembling with every beat. Jessica stands inside the ruined hall, her chest rising and falling fast, smoke stinging her eyes, sweat dripping down her neck as she clutches the machete tighter, trying not to show the fear clawing at her insides. The flames circling the stone walls hiss and crack, throwing shadows that make the hunters outside look endless, each mask glinting red in the firelight. A single blast of the horn cuts through the chaos, deep and haunting, vibrating through her bones until her knees almost buckle. From the altar of broken stone steps the burned figure, a nightmare wrapped in ash and fire, its body cracked open with glowing embers pulsing inside as if it is breathing flames instead of air. The hunters drop to their knees, hands raised in unison, chanting words Jessica can't understand, yet she feels them in her blood, heavy and suffocating. The creature's hollow eyes sweep across the ruin and land on her, locking her in place, a predator sizing up prey. A low voice, more like the scraping of stone than speech, rolls out of its ruined mouth, promising that the hunt is not over, that blood must seal the oath, that a sacrifice must be made. The flames surge higher, crawling across the stones as if alive, closing her inside a ring of fire with nowhere to run. Every sound, every breath, every heartbeat belongs to the ritual now. Jessica's grip tightens until her knuckles ache, her mind screaming to move, to fight, to do anything but stand still, yet her body feels chained by the weight of so many eyes staring through their masks. The hunters bow deeper, their voices rising, the forest itself trembling, and Jessica realizes this is no simple hunt, this is a gathering, a coronation, a ritual that has been waiting for her since the moment she stepped into the cursed woods. The air grows hotter, smoke filling her lungs until each breath burns, her vision blurring with tears, but she doesn't lower her blade, not even as the creature raises its charred hand toward her, ash drifting down like black snow. She wants to scream, to curse them all, to tell them she will never bow, but the words catch in her throat as the ground shakes harder, the fire roaring, the hunters chanting faster and faster until it feels like the world itself is demanding her death. The ritual has begun, and Jessica knows with terrifying clarity that this isn't just another fight for survival, it's the final hunt, and there will be no escape without blood. Mara's scream cuts through the roar of the fire, her voice trembling with both rage and fear as she lunges from the smoke, a jagged blade gripped in her hand, eyes wide with something Jessica can't recognize anymore. Jessica spins just in time, their weapons colliding with a metallic crack that echoes in the ruined hall, sparks flying between them, the heat of the surrounding flames licking at their skin. Jessica had thought she was saving this woman, dragging her out of the hunter's grasp, giving her a second chance at life, but now she sees nothing but betrayal in Mara's trembling hands, betrayal written across her face as clearly as the blood smeared on her cheeks. Jessica pushes back, forcing Mara a step away, her chest heaving, anger boiling inside her, demanding answers, but Mara's words cut deeper than any blade. She screams that Jessica's survival has ruined everything, that the cult had chosen her, Mara, as the successor, and that the only way she can live is by spilling Jessica's blood and wearing the mask. The hunters outside chant louder, their voices like a wall of sound pressing against Jessica's skull, urging Mara forward, pushing them both into this deadly dance. Mara strikes again, wild and desperate, each swing reckless but fueled by fear and determination. Jessica parries, her arms aching with every block, her body screaming to rest, but she forces herself to stay sharp, her blade flashing through the firelight. Sparks rain down as steel collides again and again, Mara's face twisted into something unrecognizable, tears mixing with sweat and soot, her betrayal hurting Jessica more than the blows themselves. Jessica shouts at her, begs her to see reason, to understand that the cult will never spare her, that promises made in blood are lies, but Mara's screams drown her out, her voice cracking as she insists this is the only way, that Jessica must die so she can live. The heat grows unbearable, sweat burning Jessica's eyes, the floor trembling beneath their boots as the burned leader watches in silence, its hollow eyes glowing, its voice rumbling low like thunder, urging Mara to strike, to finish it, to take her place. Jessica stumbles, her back hitting the stone, Mara's blade slicing the air just inches from her throat, the betrayal pressing down like the weight of the entire cursed forest. She feels her chest heaving, the fear rising, but beneath it a fire of her own ignites, a refusal to die here, not like this, not by the hand of the one she saved. With a roar she pushes off the wall, slamming into Mara with all her strength, their blades locking, both trembling, sweat and tears mixing with blood. For a heartbeat their eyes meet through the haze of smoke, one pleading, the other burning with defiance, and Jessica knows this is no longer about the cult, no longer about the oath, it is about survival, and only one of them will walk out of the fire alive. The ground quakes beneath Jessica's boots as the burned figure steps forward, its movements slow but terrifying, each footfall leaving behind smoldering ash that eats into the stone. The hunters outside fall silent, their chants cut short as though the air itself has been stolen from their throats, and in the hush Jessica hears only the crackle of flames and the faint hiss of embers spilling from the monster's broken body. Its mask is split, revealing flesh blackened and charred, glowing veins of fire running through cracks in its skin as if molten rock flows beneath. Its hollow eyes lock onto Jessica, and for a moment she feels as though she is staring into a furnace that wants to consume her whole. A voice emerges, but it doesn't belong to a man anymore. It is deeper, layered, a chorus of whispers that scrape against her bones. It tells her the oath cannot die, that she has only killed the shell, not the soul, and that the ashes carry every scream, every drop of blood, every hunt that has ever been. Jessica grips her machete tighter, her palms slick, her mind screaming that she killed him once, that she saw him fall, yet here he stands, taller, stronger, something far worse than human. The hunters drop to their knees, their hands pressed to the ground, their foreheads lowered in worship as if a god has risen among them, and their silence is more frightening than their chanting ever was. The burned figure spreads its arms wide, flames searing the air, sparks raining like fireflies gone mad, and the forest beyond answers with a roar of wind, branches snapping as if bowing to him. Jessica's chest tightens, her lungs fighting for air as smoke coils through the ruin, the heat suffocating, pressing her closer to collapse, but she refuses to kneel, refuses to bow to this nightmare. The creature tilts its head, studying her, and then it speaks again, its voice vibrating through the walls, promising that the cycle is eternal, that she is already part of it, whether she bleeds tonight or takes the mask herself. Her stomach twists at the words, the implications sinking in: no escape, no freedom, only roles to play, predator or prey, hunter or hunted. She shakes her head violently, defying it, shouting that she will never be theirs, her voice cracking in the firelight, but her defiance only draws a terrible laugh from the creature, a sound like burning timber splitting apart. Its body flares brighter, flames crawling up its arms, its chest glowing with the intensity of a forge, and Jessica realizes with a jolt of terror that this isn't just a leader reborn, it is something the cult has been feeding for generations, an ancient hunger clothed in fire and ash, wearing the mask of men long dead. Her knees want to buckle, her mind wants to surrender, but she bites down on fear, lifts her machete, and faces it head-on, because even against a monster born from ashes, Jessica refuses to bow. The fire surges higher, walls of flame curling around the ruined hall until Jessica feels as though she has been swallowed whole by the inferno, every breath burning her lungs raw. The hunters pour inside, their masks glowing in the firelight, weapons raised, their steps pounding in unison like the heartbeat of the forest itself. Jessica doesn't wait, she launches forward, her machete carving through the smoke, steel meeting flesh with a wet slice as the first hunter collapses in a spray of blood. The others rush her at once, a blur of blades and shadows, and she fights like a cornered animal, every strike fueled by fury, every swing a desperate refusal to die. Sparks rain around her as steel clashes against steel, the clang echoing with every block, her arms aching, her chest heaving, her body begging to surrender, but her mind refuses to let go. A blade grazes her shoulder, the burn of it sharp and hot, but she twists, slamming her machete across the attacker's neck, hot blood spraying her face. Another hunter barrels into her, knocking her against the stone, his mask inches from her eyes, but Jessica jams her blade upward, feeling it crack through bone until the body goes limp. She shoves it aside, barely standing as more come, their chants returning, louder now, feeding the flames that roar higher with every death. Mara appears through the chaos, her blade in hand, eyes wild, screaming above the fire's roar as she charges Jessica once more. Their weapons clash, sparks bursting between them, Jessica's arms trembling as she pushes back, her rage boiling hotter than the fire itself. "You think they'll spare you?" Jessica shouts, her voice breaking as she parries a blow. Mara answers with a scream, swinging again and again, each strike reckless but relentless, driving Jessica back toward the altar where the burned figure looms, watching, its hollow eyes gleaming with approval. Jessica refuses to give ground, her muscles screaming as she fights back, each clash shaking through her bones, the weight of betrayal pressing harder than the hunters themselves. Around them, the masked cultists close in, circling, chanting, pounding the ground with their weapons and rhythm, demanding blood to seal the ritual. Jessica's blade slips, Mara's jagged edge nearly catching her throat, and for a heartbeat Jessica sees her own death reflected in Mara's furious eyes. But instinct takes over, survival roaring inside her. She twists, ramming her shoulder into Mara's chest, knocking her off balance, then slams her machete across the mask of another hunter closing in. The cultist crumples, and Jessica spins back, her face inches from Mara's, sweat, soot, and tears mixing between them as they lock in a struggle neither can afford to lose. The heat is unbearable, the ruin shuddering, the burned leader raising its hands, flames curling like serpents from its arms as if the entire forest waits for this moment. Jessica feels her legs weaken, her arms shake, but she snarls through gritted teeth, her voice hoarse yet unbroken, "I am not your prey." And with that, she hurls herself back into the fight, refusing to bow, refusing to break, even as the fire threatens to consume them all. Mara's blade screeches against Jessica's machete, sparks exploding between them, the sound like nails raking through steel as both women push with everything they have left. The hunters close in tighter, circling the altar, their chanting pounding like war drums, their masked faces tilted forward as if hungering for blood. Jessica's arms shake from exhaustion, her lungs searing with smoke, her body crying out to collapse, but her fury holds her upright. Mara's face is twisted in desperation, sweat dripping from her brow, her lips trembling as though she's fighting herself as much as Jessica. For a heartbeat Jessica catches something human in her eyes, a flash of fear, maybe even regret, but it vanishes when Mara screams, driving her blade forward with reckless force. Jessica jerks aside, the jagged edge slicing across her ribs, pain tearing through her, warm blood soaking her shirt, but she doesn't fall. Instead, she roars and twists, slamming the machete's hilt into Mara's jaw, the crack echoing like thunder. Mara stumbles back, her mask half shattered, her breath ragged, but she still raises her blade, refusing to stop. The burned leader's hollow voice rumbles above them, urging Mara on, promising her power, hissing that Jessica's death will seal her place in eternity. The cultists chant louder, their bodies swaying, their voices blending with the fire until it feels as if the whole forest chants against her. Jessica's chest heaves, her vision blurring, but rage steadies her grip. "They'll kill you too," she spits, her voice raw, "you're nothing to them." Mara shakes her head violently, tears streaking her soot-stained face. "I don't care," she cries, her voice cracking, "I just want to live." Her words slice deeper than her blade ever could, a confession drenched in terror, in weakness, in the madness the cult feeds. For a second Jessica almost falters, pity rising like a wound in her chest, but then Mara lunges again, her blade cutting through the smoke. Jessica sidesteps, rage boiling away pity, and swings her machete in a brutal arc. The steel crashes into Mara's arm, bone splintering with a sickening crack, her scream piercing the air. Her weapon clatters to the floor, her knees buckling as she clutches the mangled limb, her sobs mixing with the cult's chant. The burned leader roars, its voice shaking the walls, flames surging higher, demanding Mara to rise, to kill, to finish what she began. But Mara can't. She crawls on her knees, broken, bleeding, reaching for the mask that lies shattered on the altar, whispering through tears that she was meant for more, that she was promised a life beyond fear. Jessica steps forward, her shadow cast huge by the fire, her eyes cold, her machete dripping red. For a moment, silence grips the room, the hunters holding their breath, the fire dimming as if waiting for her choice. Jessica's hand trembles, her chest pounding, but then she brings the blade down fast, merciless, ending Mara's scream in a single strike. Blood pools across the altar, soaking the ancient carvings, the cult's chant breaking into cries of shock and fury. The burned leader bellows, the sound like the forest splitting apart, its flames flaring brighter in rage. Jessica stands over Mara's lifeless body, her own blood dripping to the floor, her machete slick, her shoulders shaking with exhaustion. Betrayal has ended, but the firestorm has only just begun. The burned leader towers over the altar, its body glowing like molten stone, flames twisting up its arms and pouring from the cracks in its ruined mask. The hunters fall silent, their chants dying on their lips, all eyes fixed on the monster and the lone woman standing before it. Jessica grips her machete tighter, her palms slick with blood, her breath ragged and shallow, her ribs screaming with pain from Mara's strike. The heat is unbearable, every inhale scalding her lungs, every exhale tasting like ash, but her eyes never leave the creature. It spreads its arms wide, fire rippling outward in a wave that knocks her back to her knees, her blade skittering across the stone. The cultists howl in awe, pounding their fists into the ground as the forest itself groans, trees splitting outside, sparks raining like fiery snow. Jessica crawls forward, dragging herself toward her weapon, her vision swimming, her muscles trembling on the edge of collapse. The leader steps closer, its shadow swallowing her whole, its voice rolling through the ruins like thunder, telling her she was never a savior, only a sacrifice, and that her blood will keep the fire burning for eternity. Jessica's hand closes around the machete, its handle slick and heavy, and with a cry she forces herself to her feet, staggering but unbroken. The leader roars, raising an arm, a pillar of fire coiling like a serpent before crashing down where she stood a heartbeat earlier. Stone shatters, heat blasting across her skin, but Jessica dives through the smoke, slashing upward with every ounce of strength she has left. The machete bites into the creature's side, sparks and embers erupting, a sound like iron screaming as the monster reels back, bellowing in fury. The hunters cry out, some falling to their knees, others beating their chests, but Jessica doesn't stop. She swings again and again, her blade hacking into charred flesh, molten light spilling from every wound, her arms burning, her voice raw with each cry. The leader grabs her mid-swing, massive hand wrapping around her wrist, the heat searing her skin, forcing the machete free. It lifts her from the ground, her body dangling, her throat tightening as the heat scorches her face. For a moment, Jessica feels herself slipping, darkness pressing in, but then she sees Mara's broken body at the altar, remembers the women who died screaming in the forest, remembers her own vow that she would never be prey again. With a final surge, she drives her free hand into the wound she carved, her fingers closing around something hard, the jagged remains of the mask buried in its chest. She yanks with everything she has, tearing it free. The leader howls, its body splitting with light, flames bursting outward in a blinding storm. Jessica crashes to the ground, clutching the mask shard as the monster staggers, its body unraveling, fire pouring from every crack until it explodes in a torrent of ash and embers. The hunters scatter, their voices breaking into screams as the fire devours them, their cult collapsing with their god. Jessica kneels in the ruin, her body broken, her machete lost in the smoke, the shard of the mask burning in her hand. The forest groans one last time, then falls silent, only the hiss of dying flames surrounding her. Bloodied, trembling, she rises to her feet, her shadow long against the glowing embers, a survivor standing alone in the ashes of the hunt.